All right, let's talk about it. Dan Shore joins us. Former prosecutor Domenic Romano is a New York attorney. Gentlemen, good to see you. So, I mean, the nation's highest court has dealt with the issue of God and the Pledge of Allegiance before, have they not?
Right, and the prior suits have generally been about the separation of church and state. This is interesting because there's different grounds. They're bringing it under the Massachusetts state equal rights laws, and they're saying that it violates their equal rights. It's not a religious liberty argument.
Yeah. You know, Domenic, 9 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court had a nearly identical case, and they booted it essentially on procedural grounds. They didn't decide it on the merits. So this time around, this particular Massachusetts case could really have import.
It could, but like Dan said, they're attacking it from a different angle, equal protection rather than the freedom of religion. It's interesting, a lot of people don't realize, as your segment pointed out, that it wasn't always that way. Those words under God weren't always there. It was during the Cold War, in contrast to atheist Russia, that the President and Congress added those words into the pledge. So what these people are asking is for a restoration back to the original language.
Well, but take it to its logical extent, Dan. I mean, could it also remove "In God We Trust" on the dollar bill?
They could bring a suit for that. I think the key part here that's going to hurt the plaintiffs is that it's voluntary, that they don't have to say it. And if you just look at current law and prior cases, it's hard to find a precedent for their case. They are bringing it under the equal rights law, which was used by the Massachusetts High Court to legalize same-sex marriage by a 4-3 vote a few years ago. So they're trying to say that under the same legal theory, this violates their equal rights.
Yeah. I wonder whether this will work its way beyond the Massachusetts state lines into the U.S. Supreme Court. It's a completely different court now than it was 9 years ago.
You're right, it could, and this decision could set off others similar. But I think there's a distinction between, like you mentioned, the dollar bill or the pledge. In the pledge, it's something historically that we don't go back as many years, and it doesn't really need to be there if you think about it. I was raised Catholic. I was taught by the Christian Brothers in a Catholic high school. I happen to have no problem saying those words, but some people do. What kind of a country do we want? Do we want a country where different faiths are respected? Why do those words need to be in that pledge? I think that's what this whole argument is about.
Yeah, and it's different because on the dollar bill and other symbols throughout the nation, the word God is used. And the Supreme Court in past cases has said, okay, that's permissible because it's tradition, it's not religion. This is a recitation of words. Is there a difference?
Well, one of the questions that the lower court, which sided with the defendants, addressed was whether, is this a prayer or is this just a recitation about a pledge to the country that happens to have a couple of religious words in it? That's really the defining issue here. So far, past cases have not been on the side of the plaintiff, but they are bringing a new legal theory here, so we'll have to see what happens.
What do you think is going to happen?
It could go either way, but
really?
if
is that close?
I think if the words were removed, we wouldn't be a weaker country because of it.
All right. You agree?
I think it's unclear. It's a new legal theory, and I'm really not sure how it's going to go at this point.
All right. Dan Shore, Domenic Romano, good to see you both. Thanks so much.